military. And they just couldn't identify it, so that's when they finally said, hey, we got to find out what's going on. So this story, I mean, more people kept coming out, and the bad part about stories like this is sometimes it's you're taking people's word for their stories or based on their own experiences. And it's like, are they trying to fill in spaces and maybe make a misinterpretation? Or is there a much deeper story to this? Because when the E2 Hawkeye was out, they would also be recording. And so at the Princeton, they would be recording everything going on. Well, reportedly, when the E2 Hawkeye landed, the data drives were removed from the aircraft. And normally what they do is they put these data drives into storage. And the data drives monitor like the radar that's being tracked by these aircraft. They'd be monitoring most likely all radio communications that's going on between everybody. So it's basically recording the whole incident. These data drives were to be taken to a lockdown area. Once they were there, they were only there about an hour, and per the individual in charge of it, he said a couple of personnel showed up, Air Force personnel, which, I mean, this is a naval ship, but they were Air Force personnel, and they requested these data drives. And he said he just couldn't give them up, but one of the commanders said, give them the data drives. And these individuals got the data drives and disappeared. Now, that's one of the stories that comes out. On the other hand, David Fravor said that, well, these data drives are periodically erased. So they reuse these things like a videotape. And that's also where the information may have disappeared at, of when they reuse these data drives. So it's, did this really happen? Because you'd have to have some other eyes potentially, or other people coming forward saying, yep, this guy's right. We remember seeing these individuals come on board ship, and we thought it was unusual ourselves. Getting more witnesses to support this original story.
So this is back in 2004.
Yeah.
The pilots and the naval officers are now coming forward in 2019 and talking things like Popular Mechanics and the New York Times on this stuff.
Correct. And it initially came out in the Times, and it kind of spread over to everybody then. The other agencies picked up on it. They tracked down these individuals. And David Fravor's been very open about his own experiences. He seems to be very honest. I mean, when you watch his body language, you watch his manner, it's just like, hey, I don't know what this thing was. This is exactly what happened during my encounter. I have absolutely no idea what it was. It didn't appear to be anything that we have in our arsenal. And he's not saying necessarily it's like an alien craft from another world. He just says this thing was making maneuvers that didn't appear like it was from this world. But again, that could be read that maybe it's something that of aircraft that exists in our arsenal we don't know about. Because right now, it's come out in the last couple weeks that the new B-21 bomber, which is kind of like the information that's being released on it appears similar to a B-2 flying wing, except it's a little bit smaller.
Okay.
There's stories now coming out of like Area 51 and also out of like California that appears that they may be doing some test flights, maybe on some prototypes out there, because they're saying that there's some aircraft that's flying that doesn't appear to be, something that we're familiar with.
Something triangular.
Right. And they're saying that reportedly they're trying to put they're saying that the B-21 would be flying about the middle 20s. But they're speculating that maybe this could be something that's flying in the region. But that craft is not supersonic, the original flying wing. And these objects that appear off the coast of California are moving at exceptionally high rates of speed. They're tracked going slow, but then all of a sudden they disappear over the high horizon at extremely fast speeds.
Well, the original flying wing was a bomber, correct?
Well, you had the F-117, which F normally goes with fighter, but that is a bomber. That was what they used over in Desert Storm initially. Then later on, the B-2 was started to be used in these military operations, and that's the much larger flying wing. That kind of resembles one that they built and tested back in the 1940s. And it was actually even, Northrop was even working on them in the 1930s, if I remember correctly. And the original ideas of flying wing. And the one that we see today, the B-2, that one has been in existence now for 30 years. And if you think about 30 years, it's quite some time. And they're saying that it's kind of like its life is getting up there. So now they want to promote the B-21, which is like the replacement for the B-2. That's what they're pushing for, and it's the speeds. Again, this is where some are saying that maybe it's got supersonic speeds, but again, nothing is confirmed in those areas because it's such an experimental craft.
Okay, this is getting, wow. And it's fascinating to me because I just sent you guys the link to the space.com article. And one of the other articles listed in there was 12 possible reasons we haven't found aliens. And my comment is the 12 possible excuses why we have found aliens, but it's not being released yet.
Yeah, that's a good take, too, because you don't know what they may have and why they're not releasing it. I get a lot of the conversations when I'm out doing talks and out discussing things with people. They say, I could accept it if there was alien life out there. I said, you sure? I said, because you're looking at maybe out from one viewpoint that, okay, they're supposedly of an advanced, let's say, race. They should be of much advanced technology, and you're assuming that advanced technology that maybe advanced intelligence in such a way that, they wouldn't have a harmful effect towards humans. They wouldn't want to harm us in any way. But that's maybe not necessarily the case. I mean, who knows what the intentions really are. And I always look at it this way, too, is you're going to have who knows how many potential different groups of visitors. And just like on Earth, you may have different groups here on Earth that have different agendas. I can't see why you wouldn't have ones coming from alien worlds that also wouldn't have different agendas. Not necessarily all for our own good.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's one that you could really go off on that one and talk for some time, Barbara.
Oh, yeah.
That's a really good debatable one right there. I mean, from the point of view of, okay, their technology, how their technologies operate. I mean, if I was let's say, a military branch or a government branch, and let's say we recovered something at Roswell, you may want more disinformation going out just to mislead people on, what you really recovered. This way it gives you a chance to reverse engineer something so nobody knows what you really do have. That's just one of my takes. I mean, think about this. If you had this craft crash that maybe used some sort of a propulsion technology we're not familiar with at that time, like anti-gravity. That's been one of the thoughts behind this object called a Tic Tac, that it's working on anti-gravity propulsion, because in the videos, you don't see any heat trails coming off the object, coming from like engines. The craft itself, you don't see wings like we're familiar with to provide lift. It doesn't meet the normal silhouette that we'd associate with as being an aircraft. So let's say you got something at Roswell that was the same thing. It was an unusual shape. It shouldn't fly. It's got this propulsion system that you don't understand, but it's going to take you years, and you put out maybe disinformation to mislead people. And then when you start developing things, maybe put out some things there that's kind of like little cookie crumbs to lead somebody down the wrong path. If you remember, we were going after like nuclear propulsion at one time. Well, maybe these things aren't nuclear, but you put like some things out there that this is what maybe it is. This way, again, it gives you more chances to develop these technologies. I'm just throwing some things out there at random. I mean, these are just some thoughts, you know. But there's so many reasons. I mean, besides the alien intelligence themselves, you think about the ones a lot of people associate with the Greys. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they in between? Maybe they're like robotic. Again, giving the public only so much information.
So you believe that there are craft from another world?
I think they've got something out there. And the thing that I am even very open about there, Henry, is are they from another world? Or one of the things that pops up is, are they interdimensional? Barbara loves to go out there and search out some of the articles like I do. And they had one out just a couple of weeks ago about maybe these visitors are us from the future. That some of these things that we're seeing are capable of time travel. Now, to me, I don't know about that, but to me, interdimensional is one thing. But who knows if somebody has the intelligence out there? Maybe they've developed something in the future so they can go back in time. I don't know. I can't say it's not happening. That's for sure.
Well, it wouldn't be a Paranormal View show with me if my computer didn't crash.
Oh, so that's what happened.
That's paranormal.
Yeah. Completely went blue screen and like, sorry, here we go.
That's all right, Jeffrey. I've been hoping mine hasn't either, because I told Henry about what happened to me earlier this week, that the company I worked for actually used to work for since I'm retired now. They called me back in. They got hacked by ransomware, and it was ugly.
Yeah. I was expecting the worst I expected to happen was I would lose the connection. I'd have to keep telling the router, like, please connect me. But no, it completely crashed because I was pulling up some of the links, like Barbara had sent one of the links to the space thing, and I was putting it into the little write-up, and just boink, everything goes off. I'm like, oh, great, here we go.
So it's back on now.
Currently, yes.
I'm not going to say it was aliens.
but it was aliens. Exactly.
It was aliens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, here's a question, Thomas, because we've talked before in the past that you seem to have a good psychic connection for some of this stuff. Have you ever just sat down, like in meditation, etc., and tried to reconnect with them?
I haven't tried to reconnect with them. But, the thing that I was doing as an experiment is, I was thinking about this the other day because on the recent episode of the new Project Blue Book series, the second season of it.
Yeah.
My take on the show to begin with, it's kind of like the X-Files meets Project Blue Book. Yeah. You've got some facts.
I've seen some of the coming attraction. Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's fine. To me, it's you've got some good. They've got facts that they pulled out from some actual cases, and then they do their own take on them, kind of almost a little bit creating like an X-Files type story.